David, sitting here with Sarah Duke, our Vice President. How's it going, Sarah?
Hey, good. Well, happy day after Easter.
Day after, yeah.
Man, it kind of all groups together. You know, you have Good Friday and then Easter Sunday, and then today is Easter Monday. So it feels like a long Easter celebration.
It does. Did you have a good one?
I did.
Nice.
You know what? I got to hang out with a beautiful doggie, and we saw a lot of Easter bunnies running around in the yard. So that makes it pretty perfect. I still want to know why an Easter bunny and eggs have anything to do with one another, because it doesn't make any sense.
I've heard it's new life, fertility, something like that for spring. I don't know.
So, but why does an Easter bunny bring eggs?
No clue.
Okay.
Maybe our guest knows.
I know,
Ladies and
exactly.
gentlemen, we are here with Ryan Kenny, owner of Rocky Mountain Credit Card. How's it going, Ryan?
Hey, going pretty good.
Nice.
Maybe it was Cadbury eggs back in the day. You know, maybe it was just a marketing scheme that caught on. I
It's
don't know.
always
I'm sure it's a
marketing.
marketing
That's like
scheme.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
Man, can't you say I love you to someone outside of that day?
You can, but you make sure to say it on that day because you're supposed to.
I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Well, how was your Easter, Ryan?
That was very good. Yeah, spent time with the family. You know, had the typical brunch where you eat too much,
Yep.
and yeah, just relaxed.
Nice.
Shoot a couple bunnies out of my yard. They're eating on my lawn. So,
Wow. Okay.
but
Be careful walking on Ryan's
yeah,
property.
exactly.
Only
Oh,
if
no.
you're a bunny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, for those of you tuning in and listening on K4CO radio app, thank you for joining us. And we are live now on social media feeds on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So check it out if you want to see our beautiful faces. And do go to Ryan Kenny's website, which is rmcreditcardprocessing.com. And his phone number is 303-875-0621. So if you want to get in touch with him, we're going to go into definitely more detail. Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Of course. You're welcome anytime. I love that you're still in your Easter clothing. So
Yeah.
for all of you that need to see some fancy Easter clothing, you better jump on our social media feed.
You know it.
Yes.
How have things been? How's business?
Business is going well.
Nice.
Just trying to help out people save some money or get better technology, or you know, at the very worst, even if they don't go with me, give them a second opinion, let them know where they're at, and a fair assessment of how their situation is.
So for those of you joining that don't really know, Ryan, you're kind of like a credit debit card processing broker, right? You work with a lot of different POS systems.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I would say either broker or consultant. So most in the industry just work with one said company, and so whatever their rates or setup is, or whatever POS system or standalone terminal they sell, that's all they can do. Whereas when I started this about 20 years ago, I wanted to just offer a variety of different products and solutions. So I work with about a dozen different technology companies, processors, and so I know if I walk into a retail store, I have a couple of different POS solutions that I can offer them. Or if I go into a restaurant, I know that I have a few different services, and just try to ask what their pain points are, what they're looking for out of a system, and then go in my little toolbox and let them know which one I think's best, or if there's a couple, let them make the choice and see what they want to do for their business.
What are some of the things that kind of differentiate these companies? Is it things like the amount of transactions you do a month, the dollar amount of the transactions? I mean, what kind of sets these companies aside where you can look in and see, okay, I think this one fits a little bit better?
No, I get it. I would say some is definitely volume based. You just know that certain processors can handle more volume, maybe negotiate, and when you get into bigger size businesses, you're literally in some cases talking about pennies, or maybe depending on the volume, a half a penny, and 100 basis points in a percent. You could be talking a few 1/100% to try to get the deal. So when you're getting into situations such as that, I would just know that, this processor will be willing to negotiate and, maybe do something outside the box that, this other company wouldn't. Or you just know that certain processors specialize in certain categories or gateways. Like, if it's an internet company, I know that EPN and Authorized.net are great gateways that have been around for 20 years and, have most of the bells and whistles that most online companies need as far as that goes, or restaurant solutions. I know that, Clover's got a pretty good setup for theirs that's pretty customizable, or something with Shift4 and SkyTab to where they've got a great product they built from scratch. So,
And we've heard a lot about SkyTab, or at least I have, because I watch Bar Rescue. I love John Taffer screaming his head off at people. So it's the same. It's the same system.
yeah,
that's on that one.
it's the same system. So if any of you out there are listening or watch the new shows that come on Sunday, at the end of the show when he's redone everything and all of that, normally one of the first things he says is, "Oh, I put in 3 SkyTab POS systems."
Right.
Right. And so that's the same one. And yeah, it's a system that, Shift4, they're a pretty big player in the processing world, and they had a myriad of different systems, but they decided about 5-6 years ago to create this one from scratch, and made specifically for bar and restaurants with different features, such as online ordering. Um, they have setups for QR ordering and payments. So if you're just sitting at the table, you don't even have to deal with the server. You can order, scan the QR code. You can even pay from that or the ticket. They can do loyalty marketing, but it's all specific for a restaurant. So it's something that is specific, so it's good. Whereas it's then you have a system such as Clover, to where it's kind of a catch-all. It's a good little workhorse for retail, restaurant, food truck on the go, but for specific items, it's kind of like your phone where you go to a third-party app store and it's like, hey, I want this for my business. Okay, you buy the app and it's $10 a month and you can get reservations.
Right.
So just all specific, on what you're looking for and all that.
I like the whole paying whenever you want at the table and stuff like that, but I'm still old school. I like the actual menus in my hands. Am I the only person there?
And I'm on both sides of the fence, and you bring up a great point, because when I'm talking to restaurant and bar owners, I would say the vast majority of them are older school.
Right.
And yeah, it takes a lot, especially right now. There's so many things going on trying to cut costs. It's like, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so a lot of the times they're like, hey, I want my servers to have eye contact, to interact with my their customers. So I don't want them having a handheld device.
Right.
And they're just looking at that and typing it in. And it's like, I can see both sides of it, but the one thing that's cool, if you're a bar or restaurant and you don't have handheld devices or this and that, I think you're kind of getting behind the curve. Because you got to look at, let's say a server has 6 different tables, and I waited tables in college. You go to one table, take the order, and then the other, and then the other, and the other. And by the time you do that, you've maybe spent 10, 12 minutes, talking to all those. And you still haven't even put in the first order
Right.
from table number 1. So you have a handheld device, you place in that order, you're turning tables quicker, the accuracy is better, because when you think about it, and I even did it myself, a few times, you're writing it down, you're scribbling, you either can't read it or you misheard it, and then you go on the POS system and you have an incorrect order then. So
Yep.
it's improving accuracy, it's turning tables quicker. So in that case, I like that kind of technology. And getting back to your point, to where, like with the QR ordering and paying, in my opinion, I like that as well. I do like the holding and feeling, because it's kind of like getting a newspaper.
Yeah.
You
exactly.
like to touch and feel it and all that. But especially at the end. And perfect examples, like I was at the Nuggets game, and it was, and before the game we went to a bar and it was super busy, and we wanted to close out our tab,
Right.
but our server wasn't anywhere to be seen. And then you still have to ask for the ticket. They drop it off.
They
You
still
take
have
a
to
look at
run
it,
Yeah.
and they come back, they grab that, and that takes 12 to 15 minutes, that song and dance. Whereas if you just were able to just pay right there, or if they just gave you the receipt and there's a QR code there, you just go in, your Google Pay or Apple Pay comes up, and it's a done deal. And another good thing for the restaurant is in situations such as that, you can leave reviews immediately and stuff, so it helps your social media. They had a good experience. So there's if you don't have that kind of system, it's something you should definitely look into.
I definitely like how you can just pay and check out whenever you want instead of waiting. So that I definitely agree with right there.
It is. I know. My brain is very economic. Like my brain is so pro and con all the time I like things when it's very efficient, and I don't want to be tracked 24/7. So every time there's this QR code, I'm like, everyone knows where I am. It's just that is my own personal thing.
I've given up on that. Like I know friends who
Big Brother's gonna find us. I'm like,
they already know everything they
all
do,
of it.
and I'm not that special. I mean, my mom says I'm cool, and all that. But if you want to know a little extra info about me, go for it.
Yeah.
I love that. I'll never forget the first time this lady told me 10 years ago. She said, "You're not that special," and I was like, dang it.
Yeah,
I'm
no one
not.
cares about us.
No one does. I know.
They
I'm
just
so
they
small
just want our
that
data, and they already have it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And the amount you can just find out about people just by Googling
Exactly.
their name. It's just
Yeah.
like,
We're all over.
that's when I kind of want a name like John Smith. It's just like,
Harder
which
to
one am I?
find. True.
Yeah. But the accuracy too, I do like that, because I remember when I was waiting tables, I had to write it down. I had to, and there was other ones that just, whenever like a server is just listening, is like, yep. And you're giving them, no pickles, no lettuce, no tomatoes. And he's just like, I'm like, I'm nervous. I'm like, I don't know if I trust you.
That was me. I think I could do it up to 4 people. Once it got more, I had to get out the pad and paper.
Yeah.
But back then I had a pretty good memory. Now I'm getting older and not so much. But back then I could handle that, and I loved it.
Well, one thing you said, what really stands out to me about you and your company is you talked about customizable, which I think is really important because you have the one-stop shops. You have some people that do the mobile, like what we're talking about. Some do none. Some have multi-locations. But what I've experienced, the biggest negativity from other companies is it's very hard to reach them. They're in Timbuktu, they're in a different continent.
It's hard to reach
It's a
anybody these
1-800
days.
number,
Yeah.
and that's the biggest complaint that I see about these larger POS companies. But you're here local, and you take the time to go sit down with someone and have a conversation, which to me is a very important component of how a business is run.
And you answer a phone call.
Exactly. Came in, you answered a phone call. I'm like, look at that. What a novel concept to actually connect with people. It's amazing.
No, and I try to treat my business the same way if I was on the other side of the table, or just even personally. It's big things such as answering the phone, or I'm on this interview for an hour, so I'm not going to be able to answer the phone now. But
Right.
when I get off, just acknowledgement. Even if I can't take care of it right now, hey, I was in this big fancy interview, and I'll get back to you. But it is huge. Most of the time in the industry, and not to say that others don't, I'd say there's still a good chunk of people who do. The salesperson signs you up, they make you all these promises, and that's the last you hear of them. So at the end of the day, you're given an 800 number, you're given a MID, which is merchant identification number. And so if you need anything, even small stuff, you're calling in, and you're on hold, you're waiting for somebody. And then you have to give them your MID, your blood type, and all of this, and then after 15 minutes, you finally get to your questions. So, with my customers, I say, hey, you've got my email. You can call me, you can text me, and hopefully it's something simple. I can give you the answer. But if not, because I know I'm not the big techie guy, if it's something techie and I can't figure it out, hey, at least I'll patch you into somebody who's going to get you squared away, or make sure you've got the right contact number to get your question, offered or figured out. And I'm the advocate. I'm not setting the rates. I don't do the updates and this and that, but I'm going to be in your corner, if just in case there is something to help you out and try to take care of you.
Because you are right too. A lot of the salespeople set it up and then give you all of this information, and then it's out of their hands. They never talk to you again for the most part. And you basically are all there throughout everything. Do you ever mess with people who's just like, when you answer the phone, just like, press 1 if you're a bar, press 2 if you're a restaurant? I would.
I haven't done that one yet, but it's kind of the people who know me just start talking about whatever they need. But there's others who are like, oh, I'm so and so with such and such, and I'm like, I know who you are. I signed you up. I remember.
I saved your number.
Yeah, I have a few hundred clients, but yeah, I'm not that big to where I forget about you. So
Right.
That's nice. Well, if you are just joining us, we're here with Ryan Kenny with Rocky Mountain Credit Card. If you work in a restaurant, if you own a restaurant, a business, if you sell anything and take credit cards, I know you're feeling some pain. I hear it all the time online. Like, to go back to what we were just talking about, it's the 1-800 number. And if you're at a vendor show, you need it now.
Right.
You're taking a credit card in that moment. And if it, for whatever reason, is jamming, you have to talk to a person right away. And a lot of the times, they're like, well, we'll get back to you in 24 hours. Well, that just shot
that cost you a lot of money.
It costs you a lot of money.
Exactly.
So reach out to Ryan and at least have a conversation with him and see if it's a good idea to switch. And we'll get into the benefits of switching because you have a lot of referring business coming your way. Again, I'm going to give his email to ryan@rockymountaincreditcard.com. You can text or call 303-875-0621. So you do have a refer a business program, which is really cool. Tell us about that. If you know someone out there that has a crappy POS system, you're like, this is something they need to do.
Yeah. One specifically I have right now is for the SkyTap POS system. If you know restaurant or bar owner, friends, family, whatever, and they switch, a couple months later you get a $2,000 referral bonus just for referring it. So not a lot of work. I know a lot of people work really hard for their money, and this is an easy way to make a couple grand just for referring the business. So a really, really nice thing that they're offering.
Oh, that's nice. And if you do switch over, you get $5,000 to switch to SkyTab, and there's no upfront costs. Correct. Okay.
Correct. So if you're a restaurant or bar, and you can be with any system. You could be with Square, Spot On, Toast, any type of system, and you switch over, you receive $5,000, and then there's no cost for the hardware, there's no cost for the programming, and there's no cost for the installation, and that's big money. Especially most of these companies, they're charging $2-3 grand for each POS system itself. There's handheld devices; those are $1,500, $2 grand. Kitchen display systems. There's self-serve kiosks. These all have cost. And then programming, many don't do it for free. They tack on an extra $500 or $1,000 for that. And then if you want somebody in person, specifically, I know a couple companies that they charge like a one-day fee of like $1,000 or $1,500 just to have somebody to do that there. So, for a decent sized restaurant, that could be 10, 20, 30,000 just in costs. So, it's tough though. A lot of businesses don't want to switch their POS. They have, all their loyalty and marketing in there. Their staff know it. They don't want to switch. So we're really trying to incentivize a lot of people who might be on the fence who might be sick of their system to be like, hey, there's something better out there. Let us incentivize you, get you in for free, and also put a little money in your pocket for your time and effort.
I agree. Well, if you're just starting a business, I personally I would do a lot of I would be educating myself on all the products before I launched, but especially if you're getting paid a lot. So sorry to all the Square users, I was one of them. But there are so many problems with the cost structure, the fee structure with them, that people are getting screwed over. So, I mean, again, call Ryan, get all of the information, because
Well,
there are a lot of times that you can save people
Well,
money.
I think a
in
lot
this.
of times it's kind of like getting yourself car insurance or something like that. You set it up and then you just forget about it. And then, maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years later, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm paying this much.
Exactly. Like, look at
Like,
your bottom line.
yeah.
Because this is your livelihood. So, I mean, I would be checking it. We check that here at the studio all the time.
All the time,
We're like,
yeah.
what are we actually getting for what we're paying?
And all a customer and all somebody would need to do is send you a copy of their statement, right?
Correct. It's a lot of people, just like what you were talking about. At the end of the day, you look at your bank statement, you see, hey, I had $4,000 taken out for credit card fees, and you try to oversimplify it at times, and you're saying, hey, I paid 3.5% effectively. The industry's a lot more complicated than that. There's a lot more factors. So getting that statement is a great way to see what the different fees you're paying. There's hundreds of different types of cards just under Visa and MasterCard, and they all have different rates. So a business that maybe has a $10 average ticket that accepts 60-70% debit cards would have a totally different rate and fee structure than let's say a place like maybe an auto shop that their average ticket's $1,000, as opposed to maybe a B2B place where they take mostly business and corporate cards, where those are more expensive cards. So it's not as simple as just pitching a rate or a one rate solution. Sarah was talking about Square, where a lot of people like it, where it's just one rate and it's simple and easy, and that can work for some businesses, but for others, they may be getting overcharged for that. So it's just something where, hey, give me 15-20 minutes. Let's take a look at what you're doing. I can explain it to you. These statements, a lot of them read like Chinese, tons of different fees.
Stereo
Yeah,
manual.
yeah, exactly. And even the processors I work with, they can adjust the rates and fees a couple of times a year, and things pop up that you didn't know about. So I tell anyone, hey, every year or two, take a look at it, peel back the onion a little bit, and see where you're at. And if you're set up good and you're happy, at least you have a good check and balance. But if there's money that can be saved, or we can do something to improve your experience, let's talk further.
Just set it up at least once a year or something, just
Yeah.
to review it, make sure. And you mentioned Square last time too. Square is kind of different. So a lot of people who use Square are kind of like the craft fairs, little small fairs, stuff like that, small dollar amounts. And there's a possibility that they're paying too much for that. And so with all the companies that you work with, all the different processing centers, like give me an example where, Square may not be, it's very easy to use. I remember having one. I remember when they came out. Very easy to use, but where Square probably was not the right solution for somebody.
Yeah, sure. Square is going to be great, like you said, for the small places, craft fairs, this and that do a small amount of volume. I say if you're in that 10 to 15,000 a month or under, Square's probably a great setup for you. There's not monthly fees attached. It's one rate. It's simple and all that. But once you start doing, in my opinion, 15, 20,000 a month, just things get more complicated with your business. You're accepting, like you said, you're accepting a lot more cards, especially if your average ticket is higher. That 2.6 and now 15 cents that you're getting charged can start to add up pretty quickly. And the other thing, just things like what you were saying, you in most cases you aren't going to be calling up Square for customer service.
Right.
You're going to be doing a chat bot or
That is the number
sending an
one
email.
complaint that I see.
Or-
Truly, it is.
sending an email, and they'll get back to you in 24 to 48 hours.
Right.
And it's really simple, but a lot of the reporting features at times can be lacking. And once again, it's kind of a one size fits all. They do have a restaurant suite for POS, but for the most part, it's just kind of a catch all for everything. So, for the smaller ones, it's good, but in my opinion, if you're doing a good amount of business, there's definitely some better stuff out there.
And there is a difference between debit cards and credit cards, right? If you are taking more than the other, what is your advice for those? And I shouldn't put the vendor people in that category, but sometimes it is, more of a debit card. But what is the primary difference with that?
I mean, debit and credit card, debit cards get taken out from your checking account directly, whereas a credit cards, you have a balance on it and you carry that. Now, as far as the pricing goes in the credit card world, debit cards are the cheapest cards out there. So, on a processor level at interchange, after you add in the dues and assessments and everything, the cost is like 0.25%. So it's a fairly cheap card. So getting back to your point, if you've got a one rate set up to where you're paying 2.6%, the processor's making a really good chunk of change on that. You're making 2.3 give or take percent. So there's a lot of money that's being left on the table. So if you're doing a good amount of volume in that case and you've got a one rate setup, it might not be the best setup for you.
I would also think restaurants and bars are very much in that category.
Yeah, they get a good mix, but it's industry statistics, I haven't looked at it recently, but show that 50% of all credit cards out there are just your debit cards.
Card.
So then you have rewards and business and corporate cards, but yeah, it's still used quite a bit. So it's definitely good to, take a look, and hopefully on your statement, it'll have a breakdown of debit cards, rewards cards, and all those different categories, so you can see what the right setup and the right fee structure is. And I'm not going to force you into a fee structure. I'm going to lay out and be, hey, you can do a cost plus program. You can do flat rate if you want, or a lot of people are going to dual pricing where the fees get passed on to the customer. If it's your business, if you want to set it up that way, I can set you up that way and try to have the most compliant solution that you have.
So I would think a lot of people who probably have a flat rate setup should really talk to you. Because I remember years ago, they don't really do it anymore, but years ago, like, businesses were begging people to use debit cards. Like, do you guys remember that, where it's just like, please use your debit card? You'd even get discounts if you used a debit card on it. So, but that makes sense if debit cards are such a low rate, but if you have a flat fee, then, and you take a lot of debit cards.
Well, yeah. And back then the big thing on that was doing PIN debit, which is if you had a machine or a POS system that you would hit in your PIN number, and then it doesn't go through the credit card rails, it goes through the PIN debit networks. And so it was cheaper. So in most cases, you're paying, and once again, this gets into the average ticket and this and that, but in most cases, you're paying just like 50 cents or 75 cents per transaction. And so, especially if you had a higher average ticket, it would behoove you to just pay that flat fee as opposed to 2-3%. And so that was kind of a big thing, in my opinion, 20 years ago, was PIN debit and all that. I'm not a huge fan of PIN debit. One, a lot of people don't even know their PIN number. A lot of people don't want to be putting in their PIN number with people around and all of that.
Exactly.
And all of that. And especially if you've got like a cost plus pricing structure or a different structure, in a lot of cases you're paying less or not even as much as PIN debit. So it's not too bad.
And I'm curious, what areas do you serve? I know you do all of Colorado, but you go outside of Colorado too for these other locations,
Right.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, I can do Denver and Colorado area. I like to, I can drive to you, sit face to face as far as that goes. But otherwise, I've got a few clients in Hawaii all the way to Florida and the East Coast and all that. And I haven't done a lot recently, but in some cases, I can even dive into Canada and a few other things. It's ever expanding, but yeah, it's just not Denver and Colorado area. I don't have a territory, which is nice. So I've had many a client over the years where they have a business here in Denver, and they're like, "Oh, hey, my buddy has a place in on the East Coast. Can you handle that?" Yeah, yeah, I can. So it
Nice.
makes it nice.
That is very cool. No boundaries for you. I like it. Anything else? I mean, there's so many cool things that you do. I mean, I'm looking at your website. For those of you that want to follow along, go to rmcreditcardprocessing.com. That goes into why you all are so different. And you really support the business owners of all sizes. To go back to some of these other companies, I think it is more geared towards kind of one size, higher volume when it's the flat rate. So I like that not only can you customize it, but it truly is any size of business can come to you.
That's for sure because once again, I look at it if I was the person buying this product, and I know I'm small potatoes to a lot of places. I'm a one man shop, and I want my vendors who work with me to treat me with the same respect and try to give me the same type of pricing that they do to a lot of their bigger clients. So I try to do that with my business as far as that goes, and especially up front, it's so tough smart starting a business, or if you want to upgrade, you've had something for a long time, and I just try to do outside the box things as well. So if you have a POS system and it's going to cost you, if you want a Clover device, Clover is good, but it's like their full system can be $1,800. So there'll be cases where I'll do a discount, or I'll work out trade. If I really like your products and services for your business, I have no problem doing a trade out so you don't have any money out of pocket. Or if you do enough business, I know I'm gonna make a few dollars off of you over the years. I'll give you a piece of equipment on the house. So I just, yeah, I'm gonna try to help you, big or small, and try to get you into the best place you can be to run your business.
Nice.
You've been doing processing for quite some time. I forget what made you break out and say, "I'm doing this on my own. I'm gonna get out there."
Yeah, I just honestly fell into the business a little bit out of college, had no idea what I was gonna do, and started with another company here in town, and I just saw some things that I thought could be done better, more efficient, and I decided to branch off on my own a little under 20 years ago, and just been helping small, medium-sized businesses ever since.
You are very versed in this world. We were talking off air that sometimes it's a competitive industry, like many are, and you're doing something very right to be in this for 20 years.
Very, very true. I feel very fortunate and blessed to be able to do this so long. I know quite a few people in the industry, and statistics show that the average salesperson in this industry lasts about 3 to 6 months. It's just really competitive. There's a lot of companies out there offering it, and so it's just you've got to really know your stuff. And there's a lot of times, unfortunately, my industry gets compared to used car sales quite a bit, where you get pitched a rate and a solution, and then, like you said, you get signed up, and then 3 to 6 months later, you realize that they didn't tell you about all these different fees, or you can't get in touch with them, and this and that. And I mean, there's been many deals that I've lost where somebody I know for a fact was giving them pricing that wasn't true, or that was below cost. And I knew there was smoke and mirrors there, but never gonna sell out like that. I'll just be like, that seems like it's under cost. I would say read between the lines and maybe ask a couple of questions, but I just try to be honest, answer all the questions the best I can. And because in the end is I want to take care of you as a client, but then I want you to tell your buddy who owns a business, or your family member that owns a business, so I can help them out. And honestly, that's how I've been able to survive is, my great clients referring me to other business owners who need help over the years.
It's nice that you're transparent and you're honest and you do have that conversation. You can say, you know what you have right now is your best solution. So it is nice to have that conversation. It's very valid. I'm sure when these people get swindled after 6 months from another company, they're calling you going, uh-oh, I made a mistake.
Well, especially since the average you said for a salesperson in this industry is about 3 to 6 months. So it's like, 6 months later when you find out, oh my gosh, this I'm paying way too much. Can I speak to? Oh yeah, they're not here anymore. If you can even call and say, can I speak to this person? Because usually they just throw you to regular customer service.
Right.
Right. So giving everybody your direct phone number, your cell phone, they can text you, they can email you. That just shows a lot, which for referrals is huge.
I agree.
On that. It's no wonder you've been surviving for under 20 years right now.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing, just not the processing, but I have a couple other cool products that I can sell that not a lot of people in the industry do. There's another company I work with called Plastic, and it works on both sides. It's a way for business owners to accept credit cards, but they don't want a merchant account, and they can have it to where their customers can just go on and just pay by credit card even if they don't accept it. But then on the flip side, they offer service to where, let's say you have a lot of expenses at the end of the day. You're spending tens of thousands of dollars a month, and you have vendors that only accept cash or check. And maybe you don't have that much cash on hand, or you want to be able to work off a float. This company offers it to where you can pay them by credit card, and then they will pay your vendor by either ACH or the check that's necessary. But in that way, you can hang on to your money longer. You can have that 60-day float that you would for your credit cards, and even better, you can get all those credit card rewards that you're missing out on if you paid by cash or check. So that's another great service that I offer. And I'm also partnered with another company that has a automated beverage system. So for big restaurants, bars, they're in a lot of stadiums like in Power Field. It's called Tended Bar, and basically it uses facial recognition to recognize who you are. And so you put in your ID, and then you put in your credit card, and it automatically dispenses, you can have 20 different drink options, beers, and it automatically dispenses it, and you're in and out, so you aren't having to wait 15, 20 minutes for a drink and this and that. And
Oh my God.
and the cool thing about that is it's exact. There's no overpouring, which you may or may not like on the customer side. But for the business side, they're actually saving a lot of money. So that's another special product that I can offer that most out there aren't. So just not a processing guy.
I thought the whole just scanning what you're doing by itself and everything was amazing. I didn't even know that that's coming on now. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So back in my day, 20 years ago, I have been cut off a few times. No, of course not.
Really?
Yeah, just a few though, not a lot. How does an automated process like that know if you're really drunk?
It reads your eyes.
Does it? Do you keep scanning every time you get a drink?
You can limit it, so you can be only 4 for this customer.
Right.
Oh, so the bartender would do that.
Well,
Or
no,
the
automated
the
AI
system,
system.
because each time it's doing your
Scanning your face.
scanning and everything. So
Okay.
you can cap all that out. So that's another feature where
Cool.
there's not a lot of cases where bartenders are gonna not let you order another drink, especially when tips are involved and making more money. So another you could say that's a great safety feature for both sides to have something like that, to where
True.
there's ways to cut things off or not serve anymore.
It's great for lightweights.
Interesting. That's
Probably not for people who can have quite a few. And
Exactly.
Exactly.
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I
I've
honestly,
never heard that.
we've talked about it. Like, if you could go to a time to visit something for 24 hours or something like that, I would love to go like 500 years into the future, just to see all this crazy stuff.
I don't know. Where would you go if you could, either in the future or the past, for 24 hours, just to experience what that lifestyle,
Not
lifetime
meaning
was?
anybody in particular or famous people, just being in that time.
You know, I kind of like the Old West.
Nice.
You know, the old. I don't know how long I'd last. I probably wouldn't last very long.
Someone would shoot you
Yeah,
and it'd be done.
get accidentally get in a shootout. You know,
Nice.
the first day. But yeah, I think that would be kind of fun for sure. So yeah, have you all seen this latest thing on social media, like with the ChatGPT, where you can make yourself into a figurine? You haven't?
No,
Yeah.
I've seen the Avatar stuff. A figurine?
Yeah, so like basically you put in the information and you say, you know, what your three little items are, and they make you like into a little packaged action figure
Cool.
and all that with your
I
picture.
have seen it. People have
Yeah,
done
people
that.
are starting to do that.
It makes no sense to me.
You've never
it-
wanted to be an action figure?
No, but what they're posting is not them at all.
And
Like,
that's-
it looks totally different. So they're taking the 3 points
Yep.
and they are just a very, I don't want to get into specifics.
Well, hey,
But
I'll
very,
give you
very
specifically what I did, because
different. Okay,
I had a
good.
couple
So you've
buddies.
done it. All right.
Yeah, I had a couple buddies who did it, and I asked one this afternoon. I'm like, well, how'd you? He's like, dude, AI, Chat GPT. And so basically, you have this form, and then you can put in the items. And if anyone knows me, you know, I'm pretty simple. But like I put Broncos hat, Nuggets T-shirt, KU shorts, and then I had a beer, game tickets, and then my iPhone, because I gotta have my phone on me. So that was my action figure.
Cool. Okay.
And you received it?
Very s-
Well, no, it's just a picture.
Okay,
So it's
just a
not an
picture.
actual. Yeah,
I'm gonna
but
have to see this picture.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll show you. Show you later.
It's different.
Hey, we could use it for some of your ads. I like it. Exactly.
Awesome. Bars and studios. Well, getting back to who you serve, and I know there are more, but I wanted to mention this for those of you that are listening that are either getting into business right now. It's breweries and distilleries and bars, of course, online merchants. So even if you don't have a spot, a physical location, nonprofit organizations. Do you have something specific for nonprofit organizations?
Yeah, I'm partnered with a great company called GiveHub, and so they specifically work with nonprofits. So they have like offerings such as text to give. They have kiosks that you can have, like, you know, if you're a church, like in the vestibule, you can have a kiosk to where people can make donations, because cash is getting less and all that, and they want to be able to offer that, or like reoccurring billing. So if you want to make a donation to a certain cause, they can do that. So yeah, once again, yeah, just another company I work with that's specifically geared for nonprofits and have products that work specifically for them.
Can your point of sale systems collaborate with different software? Or does it have to be specific with what you set it up for? For example, nonprofit I work for uses Salesforce to take in donations that way. Can those work together and partner together, or is this totally new software?
This is like GiveHub would be new software, and each software is different. This industry gets pretty complicated and convoluted, and a lot of times you're working with 4 or 5 different companies. So once again, that's why you need to have the sit down to see what you can offer. Because in a lot of cases, I run into people and it's like, oh, I can only, you know, I got signed up with this software and they said I had to use them. But you once again peel back the onion, make a couple calls. They might be able to work with a certain number of gateways, and what an internet gateway is, it's just a connecting piece between the software and the credit card processor. Some have it to where it's closed system. It's like, if you want to use this specific software, you have to use our specific processor or thing. And then there's other cases where they're a little bit more open and they're like, hey, you can use XYZ company, which once again puts me in a little bit better situation than most, that I do work with numerous solutions. So, and specifically in cases like that, I have a better opportunity to be able to make something work. Like just recently, I was talking to a gentleman who owns a couple car washes, and so he has a specific software that accepts payment at the station, and then like for the vacuums. And so we had to look back at that, see which processing companies they work with, and then I was able to find the one that he had to, and so I could switch them up and save him a good amount of money on that.
Nice. I like that you work with nonprofits. Of course, restaurants and bars, photography studios. That's huge here in Colorado. And retail outlets and convenience stores. And there's so much more that you can help out with. I mean, I would just camp out at a mall and go store to store to store. But
Well, hey, for a $2,000 referral bonus, that could just be your job, just finding referrals. Like, hey,
exactly.
yeah.
Go
Any
put some money in your pocket. Have Ryan's
any
phone
college
be blown
students
up.
looking for some extra money?
Exactly.
Just go in. And just
You
like,
guys
hey,
are at the
you gotta
bars.
talk to
I know
Ryan.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just me. Okay.
No, I didn't drink at all when I was in college.
Of course.
No.
Come on, Ryan.
not.
What? Join the crowd.
What does it look like when you're, I mean, of course, when you're looking at somebody who's been in business for a while, they need to send a statement so that you can review it. You can see exactly what they're spending money on. How is it different for a business that is just starting up and running?
It's different in a myriad of ways. One, it's a blank slate, so they don't have a terminal or a POS system and such, so they can pretty much get into anything that they want to. It's a little bit harder on my end or whomever they're talking to, just because there is no history.
Right.
Like, what that statement does is give the history. It tells you exactly what they're doing in business, what kind of cards, going back to debit cards, business cards, corporate cards. That statement tells you exactly what they're processing, what kind of cards, so it gives you an outlook to where hey, here's what we can price you, here's where we can save you money. Whereas a brand new business, they have a lot of hopes and dreams and what they're going to do, but you really don't know how much they're going to process, or you have a little bit of an idea what the average ticket is, and you talk to somebody and it's like, well, I don't know what kind of credit cards you're accepting or going to accept, and they're like, oh, Visa, MasterCard. I'm like, well, that's great, but there's a lot of different cards under those card brands too, and those have different costs. So in those cases, you just make educated guesses based on what kind of products they're selling, what their average ticket's going to be, what kind of cards you think they're going to accept, and set it up that way. So you just don't have any of the data that you normally would,
Right.
with an established business.
And I'm curious, most of the times when businesses start out, most of the time the averages, whenever you have to set up a business or a bank account, they actually ask, what do you think the transactions are going to be? And most of the times people starting a business always put more than what actually occurs. Is there like a way where, I mean, they're in business for 6 months and then you guys review it again to just kind of see, okay, this is more where you are sitting right now, or how does that work when it's not what's expected?
I mean, I'm not going to go back and charge them more, if they,
Right.
whatever you're paying is fine by me. What's interesting about what you said, as far as, let's say a business comes in and they had aspirations, they're going to be doing 50,000 a month, and 6 months into it, they're doing 5,000 a month.
Right.
Just is what it is. The reason why they actually put that on the application is, in the banking world, it's all about underwriting and risk as far as that goes. And it's for not only the protection of the merchant, but for the processor and the sponsor bank. So I'll give you a couple examples. Let's say they said they were going to be doing, 50,000 a month. And then all of a sudden they start running hundreds of thousands of dollars, or they have big number transactions that are done, it might raise a flag at risk and security. And then they're going to reach out to the merchant and be like, hey, you ran a $25,000 transaction and your average ticket's $25. And you've only, yeah,
You
and you,
sell gum.
right. And all that. And, but you'd be surprised that, sometimes a customer or an employee accidentally hits another zero,
True.
or unfortunately, there's times where customers or merchants can do shady stuff and run in cards of their own to help pay off their credit card balance on their own personal cards. So there's just a lot of different things involved in that to where, the banks definitely look at that, and risk definitely keeps an eye on it. And normally what they try to do is once you have a history, they know that you're building and growing, and they try to grow with you. But if anything really goes outside their comfort level, that's when they'll look at it and flag it. And it's usually not a big deal, but they just want to make sure the transaction's legit, that there's no fraud involved, because unfortunately fraud is rampant and it's only getting worse. So they just want to protect not only the customer but the merchant.
I am very thankful that those alerts are on, because that is, I like being followed in that regard, that they know my spending habits. I got hacked now 2-ish years ago, and my bank called me within 5 minutes. Like, there's a gift card that's been charged on your Amazon account, 20 times in the last 5 minutes. Like, this seems a little odd, seems out of your character. But if, to your point, this is also something that I've heard, and it needs to be fixed usually pretty quickly. If somebody pushes an extra zero, so instead of a $500 ticket, you're now at a $5,000 ticket, does that get flagged through the system? Can they call you? What happens in that, and what is kind of the average turnaround to get that fixed?
Yeah, with something like that, it's not going to be caught immediately. Or it depends. If, let's say, the customer's credit card doesn't have that much spending limit, it'll be declined or something like that. But let's just say it was an error and they hit in an extra zero. You have a couple parts of the transaction. When you dip your chip into the terminal or swipe it or whatever, all that is an authorization. It's just talking to the bank and saying, hey, this card's good, and it's good for, let's say, the $500. Then you have what's at the end of the day called when you batch out the terminal. So it takes, let's say you had 50 transactions, it takes all those 50 transactions and then actually pushes it to the processor to actually push through that transaction. So a lot of people say, a lot of merchants get called and they have a customer who's like, oh, I just saw this charge and, it was for $100 and I didn't do that. And that's a pre-auth. And it's one of those to where it's like, hey, in 3 to 5 days, it'll drop off. So in a case where there's an error like that, you definitely want to catch it quick. But you'd probably just have to end up doing a refund, and refunds can take 3 to 5 business days, as a normal transaction is 1 to 2. So
Right. Nice. Well, good to know.
I've always found
Glad
it
to see
interesting how refunds and credits take a lot longer than you giving them money.
yeah,
I've always found
banks
that interesting.
banks are for profit, and
Yeah.
they always want to hold on to your money a little bit longer and make money off that float.
True. And I think if it truly is fraud, like in my case, I've had it a couple times. And they actually do want to investigate a little bit. And at least that's what I've been told.
No, that's something I know way too much about. You're talking about chargebacks, and it's tough on the merchants. Merchants are it's not like innocent until proven guilty for merchants. It's guilty until proven innocent. Because think about it this way: you could go to a McDonald's, you could order a couple of Big Mac meals, and you could issue a chargeback to your credit card company without any recourse. You could have gotten your meal, been fine. And if if the company doesn't refute it, like they'll get something in the mail or an alert, and if they don't refute it and turn in the paperwork, uh, you as the shifty customer
Consumer,
would
yeah.
yeah would win that charge back. So there's actually a lot that goes into it. It's actually the customer's issuing bank that decides the case, which is a little bit shifted once again, in my opinion, towards the consumer as opposed to the merchant. And the merchant has to provide documentation. And once again, something that I've experienced that I don't like, and my at times customers get angry at me and my company, but it has nothing to do with us, unfortunately. But once again, I'll try to be your advocate and try to help you through the process, and make sure you get the documentations that's needed, and to try to win the case. But yeah, it's great. The fraud protection is great on the consumer side, but there's times where the merchant sometimes gets the raw side of the deal on that, because of course the credit card issuers want to protect their customers more than people they're buying products
True,
from.
I agree. You have to be careful on both sides. I'm sure people get screwed over on either side. But again, if you are a consumer and you go to McDonald's twice a week and you are issuing these chargebacks on a regular basis,
Yeah.
I would think your credit card company or your bank would say, we're not doing business with you
Yeah,
anymore. Like
exact-
you're doing something that's shady.
You would be able to get away with that once in a blue moon, but yeah, not some. They're looking at history too,
Of course, as they should.
as far
They
as
have
that goes.
entire fraud departments doing just that, which
Yeah.
I'm thankful for. I've never done anything shady. When I legitly got hacked, not with that.
Well, no, not with that, but with other parts of your life, of course.
What? Throwing me under the bus today. My goodness. No, but legitly, when I got hacked, like my bank called me truly within 5 minutes, and that's how I knew. I was like, "Holy mother, I'm in trouble." So, and it takes a while. You have to fill out the report and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, but it's good. They'll issue a new one, and hopefully start from scratch. But in today's world, unfortunately, I think all of us have gone through fraud one way or the other.
Exactly. With the tax season, I mean, it's rampant. And the calls, I mean, I've gotten them that, hey, this is the police station. You need to call me back immediately.
Oh, those are fun. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and
I mean,
that's a problem. There's scammers phishing all the time. The one of the latest ones that I get about one every month is, I didn't pay my express toll.
I get that
text.
too.
Mhm.
Yep. UPS.
Or hey, this is the IRS. You need
Yep.
to pay us with a $1,500 Walmart gift card.
Or you'll be arrested.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
E-
true,
e-
but people,
exact- but-
it works because they're continuing to do it.
yeah. So unfortunately, they're always trying to get your information to do it, because when you think about it, somebody commits fraud. Let's say they make an online purchase and purchase $2,000 worth of product. They get the product. By the time the merchants figured it out, they're gone.
Right.
It's very unfortunate. Unfortunate part of my industry, and there's not a lot of policing that's going on. And I mean,
It's
Yeah,
hard.
yeah.
I know. They are really never caught, to my knowledge. They do. They disappear. I know. Well, okay. On that wonderful note, we have been talking with Ryan Kenny with Rocky Mountain Credit Card. rmcreditcardprocessing.com is his website. You can call or text 303-875-0621 or email him at ryan@rockymountaincreditcard.com. For any point of sale question, go have a sit down with him, have a conversation, see if it's right. If you're starting up a business, whether you do low volume, high volume, for me, it's always worth the conversation to say, here's what I'm being charged. Does this make sense? And it's great. And the referral, if you refer a business and it closes, you get $2,000 in your pocket. That's insane. Anyone out there, just go to a mall.
If I was in
Go hang out.
college and I'd stop by bars and restaurants because I
You're already
went
there
to
anyways.
bars and restaurants.
Exactly.
You gotta talk to this guy.
Well, no, and that's and my wife gets annoyed with it, but yeah, every time I go in a restaurant and bar, I'm just peeking over, looking at the POS system, and there's been many a time where it just starts with your server who's giving you the drinks, and it's like, what do you think of the system? Oh, we all hate it, or it went down, So
Right.
it's a good easy way to get intel a lot of the times.
Nice. I
So you can
agree.
possibly save people money. Exactly. And it's not just Colorado. You work with anybody in
Yeah,
the United States. so-
nationwide.
Heck yeah.
Awesome. Anything
awesome.
else that you wanted to make sure we hit on?
No, I appreciate the opportunity talking with you guys
course.
again, and yeah, no, just what I want people to know is just give me the opportunity to talk to you, maybe educate you a little about the industry, and we can take it from there, and hopefully I can take care of you.
And you can call or text 303-875-0621. And if you just tuned in towards the end of this interview, it will be on all of our social media platforms except Instagram. For some reason, they take all those off right after. You have to catch on Instagram right when it happens. But, Facebook, YouTube, it's on forever. Facebook and LinkedIn, it's about a month. And then it's taken down by YouTube all the way. Definitely rewatch it. And for all of our wonderful radio listeners too, yeah, you can go into our media sites or YouTube channel and see all of our wonderful faces too. So it's a kind of a new thing that we're doing. So yeah, gotta love it. Well, it's always such a pleasure having you and Ryan talking to you. So thank you very much for coming on in.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Rocky Mountain Credit Card, rmcreditcardprocessing.com. This has been a wonderful interview on K4CO Radio. Be sure to tune in 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. We have one solid hour of Colorado musicians only that are in the K4CO Radio rotation. Hopefully everybody had a great Easter, and we're signing off. Everybody take care.